in conference play. That's an area Coach Joseph said they need to do a better job of defending today.
We're ready to go here in South Bend. Brianna Turner tips it over to Shepard to start things off. Marina Mabry taking the ball along the baseline, gets it back to Turner, got the ball back after it was initially blocked for the first points of the game.
Brianna Turner missing last season, rehabbing a torn ACL, and how excited Coach McGraw was, you could tell when we were talking to her before the game, to have her back this season.
Speaking of back, how about Francesca Pond back in the starting lineup for Georgia Tech? She's been coming off the bench the last three. No surprises in that starting five for Notre Dame. This veteran group, all 5,000-point scorers, is Jackie Young back in the starting lineup for the second straight game after she missed one with that ankle injury and loss to North Carolina. Our starting lineup's brought to you by Toyota. For Georgia Tech, mentioned Francesca Pond back in the lineup. The juniors had a lot asked of her, as have those freshmen. You just saw Elizabeth Balagoon, she and Elizabeth Dixon, the dynamic freshman duo, leading the way for the Jackets this season. Ogunbowale, her first shot too strong. There's Balagoon. That is how you say her name, by the way. Talked to her yesterday. Heard it straight from her mouth. Kubai on the offensive glass. Boy, she had a big game on Thursday.
I think Kubai could be an X factor in this game for Georgia Tech, and consistency is where Coach Joseph wants to see her play. She's had some big games, able to crash the boards, and she'll be a key role, I think, down the stretch in this game for Georgia Tech.
Nobody really guarding Turner, and she got an easy bounce pass as Georgia Tech maybe a little too aggressive trying to go for the steal, left Shepard open.
We talked about 60 paint points for Georgia Tech, or excuse me, for Notre Dame in that last matchup, but so much of it was because of transition. They were able to get out and run. You're scoring easy baskets when you can get out in transition like Notre Dame's capable of. As there's another big basket by Kubai. Good start for her.
Tied a career high with 17 points. Thursday night in North Carolina, 8 for 11 from the floor, also had 12 rebounds, so already working the glass for her first two baskets of this one. Young out to Mabry, she hits a three. She has been on fire from deep the last couple games, especially season high 6 3-pointers made Thursday night in Notre Dame's win at Clemson. Mabry out to Ogunbowale. There's another triple for the Irish.
Georgia Tech just so worried about the paint. You've seen some over rotations, have back-to-back three-pointers have been wide open for Notre Dame.
Here's Dixon. Couldn't get a clean shot off. Ogunbowale pushing the tempo over to Young for an easy two. Irish getting in the groove here on their home floor, and Michelle Joseph knows it. Timeout, Georgia Tech will take a...
You have to stay on Arike Ogunbowale. I think Pond lost her in that last possession when Ogunbowale was able to knock down a triple. Georgia Tech can't get over-rotated. You certainly, again, have to guard the inside. But Notre Dame certainly capable three-point shooting team, and when they're wide open like that, they're going to stick them.
Kiera Fletcher, the sophomore point guard for the Jackets, gets it over to Pond. Francesca Pond was the first player Michelle Joseph talked to during that timeout. And Balagoon can definitely shoot the three. Missed that one, but good passing on the interior to find Dixon.
Really good extra pass there, and now on 3 offensive rebounds, Georgia Tech has scored on all 3 of those. So that's where they're getting their offense early. They need to continue to crash the boards there.
Shepard working for positioning, got the basket and the foul.
Coach McGraw telling us before the game that Shepard has just really embraced her role as an inside presence. So versatile, but just has taken on being the counterpart to Brianna Turner down low. Just does so much. Really good post up and seal to get the and one.
Good hands. Shepard took it away. And Jackie Young beating everybody down the floor for an easy 2. They move so fast in transition.
It's movement. It's also spacing, knowing where their teammates are. You can just tell how much chemistry is on this team.
Kubai calling for it. Fletcher slicing her way through the lane. Had it blocked by the ACC's best in that department, Turner. Averages just about 2.5 blocks a game to lead the ACC. Michelle Joseph has gone to her bench. Anne-Francois Diouf, as well as Lotamai Latinen, both in the game for the Jackets. Kubai gets it off the inbounds. She's taking it all the way. Jackets cannot slow down the Irish as Shepard strikes again.
You watch that possession. Marina Mabry head up the entire time from the moment she got the basketball, eyeing where her teammates were. I mean, that was a tough pass to deliver. Really impressive assist there from Marina Mabry. Watch this, kind of just eyes up, sees Shepard, kind of brings it right around her body, wraps it around, and just tosses it through the defense.
Shepard perfect from the line so far. She has 8. And Georgia Tech played Notre Dame close. With each of the quarters, I went back and looked after talking to Michelle Joseph in their first meeting this season, were decided by 3 points or less, except for the second quarter. That's when Notre Dame really was able to extend a big lead. They're doing that now, and Georgia Tech, you would think, needing to slow the Irish down here. Mabry looking for Shepard again. A little bit too high that time for the senior to pull down.
Shepard has gotten really good position, very deep in the Georgia Tech defense on multiple trips down the floor.
Fletcher now over to Latinen. Her three-pointer out and out. Young daring Georgia Tech to try to stop her. They can't. 11 points in transition now for Notre Dame, half of their total. Balogun had it tapped away by Mabry. And he'll stay with Georgia Tech. It's been 8 straight made field goals for Muffet McGraw's team. Which, if you wondered how they would respond after that loss at North Carolina, well, they put up over 100 on Thursday at Clemson, and Muffet McGraw really liked the way her team came out in that game, and looks like they're coming out strong again here today.
Yeah, if I'm Amanda Butler, I'm almost rooting for Notre Dame over UNC, because to have to play Notre Dame after a loss, only their 4th conference loss since joining the league, was against North Carolina in a tough game. But yeah, they put it on Clemson, and Coach McGraw saying she just was really disappointed with the way that her seniors responded throughout the game against North Carolina. But again, you saw what they did, over 100 points against Clemson, responding well.
2 good free throws there by Fletcher. I was watching Latinen, who's down in the sprinter stance. I've not ever seen that on the free throw lane. It was interesting. Didn't have to get a rebound, though, as both were made. There's a rebound. Latinen came flying in to get it. Abby Prohaska picked up that last foul for Notre Dame. Latinen. And a little bit too much bumping, I believe, by Deasia Gregg, number 23, inside for Georgia Tech. Picks up her first personal. Billy Smith, Jeffrey Smith, 2 of our officials today, along with Erica Merriman Camerata. Shepard, boy, that battle in the paint. You can see Dixon and Georgia Tech trying to do all they can to try to control her, but they've got to do it without fouling, and now that's a second personal on Dixon.
Well, and it's so important, even if Jessica Shepard isn't getting the ball on every possession, she's working hard and making Dixon, the defender, work that much harder. And when you're forcing your defender to have to play you down in the post, it takes up some space, and Notre Dame's so good at scoring on the interior. Shepard drawing so much attention, so she's not only opening things up for herself, she's opening things up for her teammates.
Kayla Vaughn just came into the game for Notre Dame, and Jackie Young continues her strong start with 8 points. We always talk about how balanced this Notre Dame team is in their starting five, and they really are. I mean, so many talented players in this group, veterans, experience, a lot of points in their careers, but even Muffin McGraw said they realized how much they missed Jackie Young in that loss at North Carolina. Referees conferring with one another. I'm going to stop things here for a moment just to make sure everything is as it should be. There's some substitutions coming in for Georgia Tech. Had to think the shot clock was the issue. Moved it from 30 to 28. Boy, Kubai was demanding it. She's going to give a look to Greg, and you know what? I don't blame her.
Yeah, she, again, was sealing her defender low, and that's where you at least want to get a post touch, even if she has to kick it back out, get the ball down low.
5 straight misses for Georgia Tech as the lead continues to grow for Notre Dame. Michaela Vaughn couldn't extend the lead there. It'll be Georgia Tech ball. Vaughn, a player who's come off the bench in every game for the Irish this season. Sophomore center out of Philadelphia. Notre Dame starters produce 90% of their points. But Vaughn, one of those first off the bench for Muffet McGraw. 10 on the shot clock now as Lahtinen looked back toward the bench for some direction. Kubai has it. Diouf working for positioning. Kubai way off the mark. And with a lot of coming in and off the bench, subs in and out of this game for Georgia Tech, they do not seem in sync at all offensively.
No, and to have Kubai have to make a decision at the high post with the clock winding down, that's not a position you should put your post player in. A guard needs to come get the basketball and make a play.
Pond just came back into the game. I think she could really be a key figure for Georgia Tech as the season goes along. I mean, she has been the key figure for Georgia Tech the last couple of years. That's not the case this season, and that has been an adjustment not only for Francesca Pond, but for the rest of the team, and that's something Michelle Joseph talked about. I mean, Pond's coming off a game where she had no points, played 5 minutes. It's a player who averages over 30 minutes a game. So how she adjusts and how she reacts to this new-look Georgia Tech team this season is going to be big for them. Fletcher can't end the drought for Georgia Tech. Turner inside for Notre Dame, and it's good off the glass.
Really good call. Coach McGraw yelling that from the sideline, looking for Brianna Turner. Had the mismatch. She had Pond on her, so she just gave her a little steal, able to get the backside pass over top of Pond.
Under a minute to play in our first quarter. Balogun yet to score, coming off that career-high 35-point performance on Thursday. And she's over 3 to start things off. Over 3 minutes without a field goal for Georgia Tech. Vaughn, tough pass for Turner to handle, but she did well to get it back out to Prohaska. Now Young. Foul on the floor as Turner and Kubai were working for positioning.
He called inadvertent whistle, I think is what I saw in mouth.
So no foul. We'll just have to restart things here. 8 seconds on the shot clock for the Irish. Mabry gets it in to Young. Wow, what strength by Jackie Young. I think 3 different Georgia Tech players got a hand on that basketball, and she still went strong to the basket, drew the foul.
Well, I asked Coach McGraw what she felt like she learned from her team in their loss against North Carolina. She said, well, I knew Jackie Young was important, really important. And she said, but after that loss, I really realized just how important she was to our team, not just offensively, as Young is certainly one of the top contributors in that category, but defensively as well. She's a tough player. You saw her crash the board. She's a good rebounding guard, and her presence was evidently missed with no question against North Carolina.
And defensively too, to your point, in Paris Key, nobody was really able to stop her in that game. Kubai tried to hand it off to Fletcher. Vaughn, right place, right time. Now Mabry up to Turner, who's running the floor. Cannot get the basket, but good start to the game for Notre Dame. They are hitting on all cylinders. It's been a rocky beginning for Georgia Tech on the road. Jackets trailing the Irish by 18 as we get ready for quarter number 2. Coming up after the break here at South Bend. That they had in the first meeting against Georgia Tech in early January, where that was really the most efficient game of the season for Notre Dame, where they had 30 assists on 34 made field goals. And in fact, not just the season, that's the best ever in terms of effectiveness, assists to field goal ratio. Ogunbowale picking it up, putting it down. 5 points in the game for the ACC's leading scorer. What changes would you like to see for Georgia Tech in this quarter after a rough start?
I think Georgia Tech just needs to find rhythm on the offensive end. Coach Joseph told us before the game, she said she felt like in order to stay with Notre Dame, you have to be able to score the basketball. And just 10 points in the first quarter is not going to be enough to stay in this game offensively. And they've just looked a little out of rhythm. Discombobulated on the offensive end. Notre Dame has done a really good job of being disruptive. Early on, we saw Kubai crash the board. She had 2 quick offensive rebounds and 2 quick scores. And since then, Georgia Tech really hasn't gotten much second chance opportunities.
Yeah, Notre Dame, one of the top scoring teams in the country, and they average over 87 points per game. That leads the ACC. It's 3rd in the NCAA. So, yeah, you're going to have to score to even have a chance. Georgia Tech shooting just 25% in that first quarter. Young got the friendly roll to go.
Arike Ogunbowale is such a scorer, but how much fun is it to watch her when she's getting the basketball to her teammates? She's leading the team in ACC games in assists, and so just such a complete and balanced player when she can do it on all ends of the floor.
Has 12 points in the game now for Young, who's been the beneficiary of some of those nice passes. For Michelle Joseph, all-time winningest coach at Georgia Tech, she knew it was going to be a gauntlet to get through at the beginning of their ACC schedule. And she said, if we can get through that and still feel confident, she feels pretty good about what this team can do. Short on the shot clock here. Balagoon's going to have to hurry. Got the shot up and off the front of the rim. I know Georgia Tech loves to rebound. I mean, especially on the offensive end. Chelsea, they're tied for 1st in the ACC in offensive rebounds per game. But how much do you give up on that end to try to make sure you get back and don't give Notre Dame those points in transition? Young passing it off to Turner, and Kubai looked like she stood her ground, but our referee saying just pushed her body into her a little bit. That's a second personal on Kubai. Dixon also has 2 fouls for Georgia Tech.
Well, and Jen, to your point too, there is that balance of, and coaches have to make that decision when you're playing Notre Dame. How much do you want to crash the offensive boards, like a Georgia Tech team that's really good and gets offense from those second chance points, but also understanding we've got to send at least 3 players back in transition, and you have to find that balance. But between missing shots and then having just some live ball turnovers, Notre Dame has been able to convert so much into easy points.
6 points in the game now for Turner. All 5 starters for the Irish average double-figure scoring on the season. Shannon Scott coming off what Michelle Joseph called her best game in a Georgia Tech uniform on Thursday night at North Carolina. Got stuck there. Pond came to bail her out. 7 seconds as Pond took a quick 3. You gotta think, if you're Georgia Tech, Balogun's got to get going. Leading scorer for the Yellow Jackets. Still no points in this game. Kubai's been terrific when given the opportunity. Turner was working for positioning. And foul called on the floor beforehand. If that was Kubai, nope, it was against Pond, so that's her second foul. If it was Kubai, it would have been her third. Bounce pass to Turner. Just a little short. Balogun with the ball in her hands. Kubai, pass was a little low.
Just shooting at such a low percentage right now, and they're getting the ball inside, just not knocking down some of those jumpers.
Mabry showing off some ball handling moves on her way to the basket.
Mabry able to just split the defense, get in to the paint and finish through contact.
Mabry known as such a great three-point shooter, one of the best all-time, third all-time at Notre Dame in that category, but showing she can get to the basket too. Scott. Nothing coming easy for Georgia Tech on this end. You look at the execution for Notre Dame on the offensive end. I mean, they are getting high percentage shots, good looks, and nothing coming easy for Georgia Tech here. Again, 1 on the shot clock. They have to force up a shot.
Notre Dame plays a really tough 2-3 zone, and Georgia Tech hasn't been able to find anything in it. There's a big block.
The Jackets have yet to score in this quarter.
You see Doof just come over and swat Agumbawale's shot.
Redshirt sophomore out of Senegal making the most of her minutes on the floor for Georgia Tech. Shepard. Scott going for the block, but called for the foul. I believe that is her third personal. That is her second. Corrected. Not the way Michelle Joseph wanted to see things start here in a state she knows very well. Joseph, of course, one of the most decorated players in Big Ten history in her career at Purdue in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame.
You don't see
That's
that
one way to get another point off the free throw miss. Go get it yourself.
You do not see that often. Wow. When the free throw shooter gets their own rebound off the line. I like Jess Shepard. She's a fun player to watch.
Mabry's quick 3 is good. Watch out. It could be a rout. Notre Dame just rolling on their home floor. 42 points. We still have 5 minutes and change left to play in the second quarter. Notre Dame here on their home floor this afternoon. 42-10 the score for the #1 ranked team in terms of RPI in the country. Georgia Tech, they're at 38. State, really, I would think one of those teams right there on the bubble as we play through the remainder of this conference season, looking toward the NCAA tournament. This quarter, though, Georgia Tech yet to score. They are 0 for 8 in the second quarter. Meanwhile, Notre Dame is 5 for 8, shooting 63%. This is the start of the second half of the conference season as these two teams face off. And as Michelle Joseph will be quick to point out, it's the 5th straight year Georgia Tech has had to play Notre Dame twice in the same season. Good rebound that time by Deja Jefferson, redshirt freshman for the Jackets. And some extended minutes there inside for Diouf. Had it blocked, though, by Vaughn. I think at this point, looks like Michelle Joseph just looking to see who can I put out there to make something happen for me. Fletcher still can't get on the scoreboard in this quarter for Georgia Tech.
Notre Gumbawale only has 5 points in the game. This is one of the top scorers in the league, leads the team in scoring, and they're up 32, and she's only had 5.
I think you pointed out earlier, though, finding her teammates, 3 assists for Gumbawale as Diouf picks up her first foul. That'll send Michaela Vaughn to the free throw line, and I think those looks, a lot of frustration on the bench there. Yes, this is a young Georgia Tech team, but they certainly know they are better than what they are showing right now. Already have 2 wins this season against the top 25, beat 14th ranked Georgia, the non-conference, and handed Syracuse, who was ranked number 12 at the time, their first conference loss. First time Georgia Tech has had 2 wins against the top 25 in the same season since 2011-12. Vaughn gets her second free throw. Balagoon. Ogunbowale not only takes the ball, keeps it in bounds, goes down the other end and gets her points.
Such a physical, tough guard. She can take, she initiated that contact on her way to the rim.
Kubai. Balagoon, not enough touch on that pass, and then commits the foul as Ogunbowale went streaking by her, and you wondered what Thursday night might take out of Georgia Tech and Balagoon. Hard keeping up with this lady right here.
No, this is the last basket. Watch her just initiate that contact right to the rim and able to finish a tough 2.
So that'll send Enrique Ogunbowale to the free throw line for the first time today. Think about that Louisville game for Notre Dame and what Ogunbowale did in that one. A little bit of a slow start, but she wound up leading the way. 30 points, 26 of those points in the second half, and she was 12 of 12 from the free throw line in that game.
She's had some games where she has just had some monster quarters, specifically in terms of scoring. It's like she might be cruising along, and then throughout the duration of a game, her role almost changes in what she needs to do.
There's a basket for Lotman and Georgia Tech, and I love to see her celebrate after it. Like, let's take something positive and roll with it here. 3-pointer to boot.
Almost could feel a huge sigh of relief. Yes. Like finally one goes down for Georgia Tech.
The first 3-pointer that they've been able to make in this game as well. Vaughn on the other end, wasting no time, taking 2 points back for the Irish. Ogunbowale and Young, the only two starters on the floor at the moment for Notre Dame. Perhaps an ill-advised three-point attempt there by Jefferson.
Well, here's the last one. Ball goes inside to Kubai. You see a little bit of a double team. She dribbles out of it, and then good extra pass. See Notre Dame zone finally having to shift as a three-pointer goes down for Georgia Tech.
Takeaway. It's in the hands of Jasmine Carson. Threw it away, though. Ogunbowale waiting for it. Pulls up. Off the rim it goes, back into the hands of Carson. Started the first game of her career on Thursday night at North Carolina. Love the effort that Lahtinen plays with for Georgia Tech. This is a player from Helsinki, Finland. Comes from a hockey family. Her dad's a hockey coach. Brothers play. You can see a little bit of that hockey player in her as well. Feistiness. Jefferson a little shaky on the handle. Jump ball, possession Notre Dame. And keep in mind, this is a lot of players right now for Georgia Tech who don't often play many minutes. And Jefferson, Diouf's been out there quite a bit. Lahtinen going for it, went a little too strong, and Ogunbowale will go to the free throw line again. First personal against Lahtinen.
I think that's something that is, we talk about the youth of this Georgia Tech team. You've got young players, and Coach Joseph trying to figure out those combinations of who works well together, who's having a good game. Consistency is an issue with first years and younger players, is night in and night out being consistent. And so we talked about Balagoon having 35 points against North Carolina, and today so far hasn't scored, and so where is that consistency rolling over? And that's something that you learn to play through and grow through as a freshman, and why you have to work through substitutions and finding that chemistry through the duration of a game.
Ogunbowale to the bench for the final minute 27 seconds, at least for now, this first half. Balagoon asking for it. Kubai has been aggressive in wanting the ball. Good handoff. Jefferson just not quite ready for it. I think she thought Kubai was going up with it herself. It'll be Georgia Tech ball. 8 seconds on the shot clock.
You see Jefferson sort of watching, almost trying to get in rebounding position.
Kubai gets it off the inbounds. Jefferson skies high for the rebound. Another jump ball. And it goes back to the Irish. Diouf back in. Player out of Senegal who played at IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Quite a diverse roster for Georgia Tech. And our referees just conversing to make sure the clock is as it should be. Danielle Patterson patiently waiting with the Irish. Sophomore McDonald's All-American out of Brooklyn, New York, gets it up to Jordan Nixon. A little trap. And pressure from the Jackets. Patterson broke free, gets the bucket. May not be how you drew up the press break, but it'll work.
Georgia Tech, a team that will traditionally press and is known for turning you over and being physical in that area, but Notre Dame just able to pick it apart.
Foul on the floor. Georgia Tech will keep possession. That was Prohaska picking up her second. About an 8-second difference. Shot clock, game clock. Jefferson. Balagoon came flying in trying to get the rebound. Lottinen hit a three earlier. No such luck this time. Lottinen's three, the only field goal for Georgia Tech this quarter. Diff fouled as she was getting in position there in the paint. That was Vaughn committing the foul, her first. Georgia Tech still not in the bonus. They get it under the basket. Ooh. Diff. Now she commits the foul as she just sends Vaughn to the floor. So Notre Dame now will get the basketball.
You see against Vaughn, Diff just extending that arm.
Prohaska over to Young. Little fake. Gets the lane and the basket. 14 points for Young. Fletcher at the buzzer. I think we can say it has been a first half to forget for Georgia Tech as Notre Dame just rolling. 54 points in the first half. Their challenge to stay focused in the second half. Georgia Tech try to piece their way back into this game if they can. But right now, Notre Dame Fighting Irish looking good as we get ready for halftime. About ready to get the second half started here is Notre Dame putting up 54 points in the first half. And there's a Notre Dame great on this list, one of the finalists for the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, Ruth Riley. See her there along with our own Norlin Finch, Senior Associate Commissioner for Women's Basketball for the ACC. And those finalists, as you see Riley's jersey hanging from the rafters here, we'll find out tomorrow during the Baylor-Texas game on ESPN2 who will be inducted on June 8th into that Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. So let's see how Georgia Tech gets started here in the second half. Balagoon scoreless in the first half. It was a very disjointed two quarters for this Georgia Tech team. Mabry, a little short on that three-point attempt. Fletcher from just in front of the free throw line. There's a good start. As she has her first field goal. Sophomore was 0 for 6 from the floor in the first half. Did have a couple of free throws.
Yeah, no fast break points for Georgia Tech in the first half. They also only got to the free throw line twice. I'd like to see them be aggressive at the rim.
Now Ogunbowale and Mabry both missing, but not a good sign if you're Georgia Tech that they were both fairly open on those three-point attempts. Their first two trips down the floor. That went off the fingertips of Elizabeth Dixon, who was limited to just 6 minutes in the first half. 13 turnovers, which up until that Fletcher basket would have matched the number of points Georgia Tech had in this game. Great effort by Fletcher that time to tap the ball back in. Balagoon still scoreless. Pond has her shot blocked by Turner. Brianna Turner, just such a force defensively on the interior. Coming back after missing all of last season with that ACL injury, having to watch her team win a national championship without her.
Well, Coach McGraw said when the first line of defense or a guard gets beat, you've got Turner down in there to block your shot. And you get so used to having that presence inside. You can see why she's so valuable on the defensive end.
Balagoon had it tapped. That disrupted her rhythm enough that she had to pass it off. And then a little too much contact defensively by Notre Dame. And that will go against Ogunbowale. I was going to see if it was her or someone else that they were looking for. That's her second. Kubai got good positioning off the inbounds, had Shepard on her back. Balagoon, the rebound and her first points of the game.
When Georgia Tech has been able to get some offensive rebounds, good things have happened for them. Kubai on the miss, but then Balagoon, we talked about her being a good rebounding guard and is capable of scoring those second chance opportunities. Her first points.
Turner trying to link up with Shepard. That is a deadly combination when it is on. Turner and Shepard, not that time. Balagoon pulling up, her 15-footer a little short. Young doesn't need much of an opening. This time she kicks it out to Mabry. Why not? A third triple for Marina Mabry.
I love Young's awareness. You just watch every player when they bring the basketball up for Notre Dame, surveying where their teammates are. She saw Mabry there. She watched where Mabry's defender got pulled in a little bit and then kicked it back out.
Kubai had 4 points early after really working the offensive glass for Georgia Tech, but then held in check since that time.
Watch Young. She sees where her teammates are. She watches Georgia Tech's defender come in off of Mabry and just kicks it for a wide open triple. Mabry's going to knock that down most times.
Mabry 3 of 4 from beyond the arc today. Dixon wanting desperately to make her mark in this game. Turner once again, the big block. Mabry, watch out! Don't leave her open. $14 points now for Mabry. Pond looking for the answer. Mabry, make it 3 in a row! I imagine some of the conversation on Georgia Tech's bench. Get a hand in the face of Marina Mabry. She's going off. Marina Mabry.
Oh, we've talked about Marina Mabry. She's known as a three-point scorer, but she also can score in other ways. So impressive, though. You have to defend her from behind the arc, and she just is lined up and in transition, wide open. So good from behind the arc. Really able to spread the defense and spread the floor for the Irish.
Marina coming off back-to-back 20-point games against North Carolina and Clemson. She was a combined 10 for 16 from 3 in those 2 games. Now adding that with another strong performance already. 5 for 6 from 3 in this one. Balagoon, freshman, has really not been able to put her stamp on this game at all. From the elbow, Kubai's shot, gets her own rebound, falling down, gets it over to Scott. And she is fouled by Turner. First foul against Turner, who, by the way, has 5 blocks in this game for Notre Dame.
And normally, that's, again, what makes her such a good shot blocker. She can block your shot without fouling. When you get her in the air like Scott did that time is when you can usually draw the foul, but that's what makes her such a good shot blocker around the rim, and she does it without fouling. And a lot of times keeping the ball in possession for her team.
Turner on the list that was just released, the Naismith Midseason Defensive Player of the Year, one of the 15 finalists for that award. Young saw 1, one yellow jacket. It was Greg go flying to the floor. No foul, no basket either. Kubai. Kubai working that offensive glass again, still going after it. It's being tapped around. We'll see which way the officials point. It will be Georgia Tech ball, at least initially, but I think they're going to look at it, make sure clock is also correct.
Well, good hustle by Kubai. I mean, she's just so strong and tough, and sometimes all she needs to do is just turn and go up with it. Not able to finish around the rim, but just a big, strong body inside.
15 offensive rebounds for Georgia Tech. They average just over 16 offensive boards a game. That's tied for first in the ACC. Unfortunately, that also means they've missed a lot of shots to get those offensive rebounds. Young staying with it, getting the bucket. 16 now for Jackie Young. Chelsea, if you're Georgia Tech, how much are you concerned at this point in this game against the 5th-ranked team in the country who has a dominating lead about getting your starter into the scoring? We'll talk about that in a minute. There is a timeout on the floor. A lot of work to do for Michelle Joseph and Tech. Story today, though, for this team.
Balogun's only scored in single digits 3 times this season. Just a freshman, but what a load she's carried for Georgia Tech, leading them in scoring, and certainly can see the big adjustment here. And I think she needs to look to be aggressive. I mean, that's the type of shot with the shot clock winding down like that you'd expect Balogun to take to the basket. But again, there's a balance because she's a freshman, and so learning how to carry over a 35-point performance from against North Carolina into today and be consistent is something that comes with growth. It comes with more playing experience, and this is a freshman that I think you'll continue to see just get even better and better throughout her 4 years at Georgia Tech.
Just wonder how much fatigue she has from that effort on Thursday night as Lattinen hits her second three, the only yellow jacket to knock down a shot from distance in this game. Young ran into Kubai, and it will go against Kubai here for her third. The other part about this young group for Georgia Tech that we talked with Michelle Joseph a bit about was how they would come through this first half of the ACC schedule, which really it was a top-heavy start to the first half of their conference season, no question. That's when most of the ranked teams fell on their schedule. Notre Dame twice, at Louisville, Syracuse, NC State, all ranked. They only have one ranked team remaining on their schedule.
Well, I think that's what Coach Joseph was saying, is making sure this team stayed the course and kept their confidence up even during that stretch.
And Vaughn down on the ground right now. They're going to stop to take a look at her as Dixon has a basket, but that is never a sight you want to see. Taking a look what happened. Vaughn right there in the middle gets bumped by Dixon. It was just that contact that sent her crumbling to the ground.
Remember Vaughn, a player, one of those players that was out a season ago when Notre Dame got plagued by that ACL injury, and you see the brace on her left knee.
Yep, one of those 4 players with ACL tears, and what will always be a very important side note to what this team accomplished winning the national championship last season. Mabry looking for 6, she's got it! That ties a season high. She hit 6 on Thursday at Clemson. Those are 6 threes, by the way. That's one way to use your head. Mabry keeps her head, nearly got the layup.
She laughed along the way. Shepard's so quick with that pass.
Gotta be ready. Talk about heads-up play. Nearly got her head taken off that time with the pass. Now Balagoon will step back. She feels the three-point shot, the part of her game that comes most naturally. Not today, however. Nixon from inside the three-point line on the other end. She has her first points. Balagoon left open. And when he needed the shot, she was hitting at will. She was eating up those three-point shots Thursday in Chapel Hill. Good handoff that time from Mabry. Shepard says, thank you very much.
You have to be so aware as the defense, not only where the ball is coming from and guarding the ball itself, but you have to be in help sides. You have to have hands in the passing lanes. You have to bump the cutters because Notre Dame players always looking for their teammates, making those tough passes.
That was actually Nixon whistled for the foul. A little too much contact that time. What caused the whistle? You were noting in the timeout before as we just saw a shot of Muffin McGraw. Rarely is there a look of pleasure over there on the bench. She is always having a critical eye on the game, even when the scoreboard would say there's a lot to be happy about. Pond. Good rebound by Dixon, using her left hand nicely. Now, this is Dixon, a player who averages just under 10 points per game on the season. Good hands by Balagoon, but Prohaska stayed with it. Now Pond comes up with it. Pond looking for some options. Francesca Pond reached the 1,000-point mark in her career earlier this season. Would love to add 3 more right here. Just hasn't had the touch. Kubai and Mabry both on the ground. Was a word Mabry herself used in that feature we saw at halftime. A little feisty at times. Getting to the floor, trying to get that ball. And Kubai, the 6'4" sophomore for Georgia Tech out of Terni, Italy. Competed at the FIBA U20 European Championships over the summer with her country. Carson touched it for a moment, but it went back to the hands of Mabry. Patterson. Jasmine Carson now for Georgia Tech. Dixon wants it. Carson didn't see a clear path to get it there. Now she'll call her own number. Kubai! That may be the easiest point she'll get all night, but she'll take it. Finally, she scores after having those 4 quick points early in the game. Now 6 total. Under a minute to play in the third quarter. Mabry coming off the screen, wanted to go to Turner. Well, that's one way to get it to her. Nebraska helping out.
Not how the play was supposed to go based on Coach McGraw's reaction, but Notre Dame able to score out of it.
Dixon, her turnaround is good. 6 points in this quarter for Dixon. And that equals the number of minutes played she had in the entire first half. Mabry in some trouble. Jump ball the call as both Carson and Kubai get in there to trap. And it will be Georgia Tech basketball. And for Georgia Tech, you just have to take this game in small increments. Here's one to at least see if they can finish the quarter the way they'd like. And Balagoon a little too excited, took some steps. So the turnover gives it back to Notre Dame with just under 6 seconds to play. Nixon gets it over, but does not get a shot off. Good defense played as Fletcher came over to help. So it wasn't the offensive end to the quarter Georgia Tech wanted, but they got a good defensive stop there. Other than that, it has been all Notre Dame. Marina Mabry leading the way in the third quarter from deep. Since joining the league, not being crowned ACC tournament champion, they lost in the final to Louisville. The Cardinals won their first ACC tournament championship. Good ball movement by the Irish as it was Jordan Nixon coming on the weak side who was fouled on her way to the basket.
Picked up by 23, Deaton Craig of Georgia Tech. For second, team's first of the quarter. To the line for the Fighting Irish, Jordan Nixon.
Both teams able to go to their bench, but for vastly different reasons here. Comfortable, I think you would say, lead for Notre Dame. And for Georgia Tech, it's been a search for answers and consistency from basically the first whistle of this game.
As we looked at that tournament promo, I think it'll be another exciting season. We saw a really good game here. Notre Dame and Louisville facing off, and Louisville just beating Connecticut this past week. NC State, we talked about them, undefeated, only team in the country undefeated so far, and some really exciting games left in conference play. Still a lot that could happen.
NC State hosting North Carolina today, so the Tar Heels seem to be on quite a roll after their upset of Notre Dame and then hanging on for that one-point win over Georgia Tech Thursday night.
And Coach Moore with NC State had said, when you look at that tough stretch of schedule they have coming up against ranked opponents, he didn't look past North Carolina. I mean, that's an in-state rivalry game. You usually get a ton of fans coming out to that game, and that's one that you never want to look past the Tar Heels because you saw they're capable of turning it on any night. And so that'll be an interesting matchup this afternoon to keep our eye on.
Yeah, to your point, he said that before they did their damage against number 1 Notre Dame. Danielle Cosgrove, who took that last shot for Notre Dame. Carson now hits the 3 for Georgia Tech. It was just the 4th three-pointer made by Carson this season. Prohaska. And now Young. Young, the only starter on the floor for Notre Dame at the moment. Lotman pulls up. Good rebound by Dixon. I like the way that Liz Dixon has continued to fight and play when she's been able to stay on the floor in this game for Georgia Tech. 8 points now in the second half for her.
And another freshman who's had a huge role on this team from day one.
And she is the only starter on the floor for the Jackets. No, excuse me, Fletcher. She and Fletcher, the only two at the moment. 5 on the shot clock for Young. Well, that's one way to beat the shot clock. Young says, I got this. 18 points for the junior who's from Princeton, Indiana. What a high school career Jackie Young had, leading scorer in the state all time, over 3,000 points in her high school career, and now over the 1,000-point mark in her collegiate career at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame number 0, Jordan Nixon for third. Team's first.
And as you talked about earlier, Jackie Young, just one of those game-changing type players, even on a team filled with game changers like Notre Dame is.
As Coach McGraw said, the type of player that you know how important she is, but when you realize her absence and you can really feel how much she impacts the game for Notre Dame. Clearly can do it on the offensive end, but such a good defender in that guard position.
Carson hits the second free throw. That allows Georgia Tech to set some pressure up. And typically this is part of the DNA of Georgia Tech. They forced the turnover on Patterson. Crowd doesn't like it. The Jackets second in the ACC in steals per game.
Well, this is where one of your guards needs to come back immediately. I mean, this is a bigger play. You have to come back and get the basketball from your post player. You can't leave her out there expecting her to handle the ball when it's a three-man trap.
I like you protecting the post players in that, Chelsea,
I've been in that position.
Balagoon left open. The swing pass to her. She hits her first three of the day. Prohaska had Balagoon trying to pick her back pocket. Passes it off to Patterson, who will shoot some free throws.
Fourth foul picked up by number 13.
That is the fourth foul on Kubai.
At the line of Flying Irish, Danielle Patterson.
Patterson has not had the opportunity to get to the free throw line very often this season, but she had missed just one before that. She was 7 for 8, now 7 for 9. One of those players in her sophomore year who Muffet McGraw earlier said was the most improved. Just had a different mindset coming into this year. And make no mistake, these players on the floor right now, at least a good number of them, will at some point have to play a role, whether it's just spelling the starters for a few minutes and not letting the level drop, or coming in and getting points, whatever it may be as this season goes along. They will have a role to play for this Notre Dame team. What a pass by Ogunbowale. Prohaska couldn't quite handle it. Lahtinen. That's a Balagoon. Lahtinen in the corner. Gregg with the rebound, or Jefferson, excuse me. And Dixon now in double digits. She is a dozen.
Yeah, 4 seniors will Notre Dame lose this after this season.
And a 3-second violation against Patterson. You can't start thinking about that yet.
I know. Coach McGraw had mentioned, you talk about this team winning the national championship, and you've got these 4 seniors and how you keep them motivated, and this is their last chance to go out and try to win back-to-back national championships, something that Notre Dame has never done before. And not that this group needs motivation, but you're looking at 4 players that you'll most likely see go in the top rounds of the WNBA draft.
And don't you think how they handle the pressure throughout this season, because expectations are so very high. I mean, they were high last season too, but then you have the injuries, and all of a sudden they're, even with the high ranking, a bit of an underdog story this year. With all the players they got back and all the experience, I mean, they are expected to be in that national championship game contending for a national title. And if they don't do it, it'll certainly seem a letdown with what they know they have.
Well, I think they respond so well through the course of a season, and you saw the way they have a tough loss against North Carolina, and the way they've responded against Clemson, and are responding again here today. And that's something that not only speaks to what Coach McGraw does to keep them so focused and to build off of those losses, but she challenges her seniors to elevate every night, and they've responded well in doing that.
Ogunbowale to the basket with some contact, it looked like, but no whistle, didn't matter. Ogunbowale has her first points of the second half, 12 for the game. Carson, nice handoff to Dixon. Slaps her hands in frustration after the miss. Oh, Prohaska saw Jackie Young wide open, but a Georgia Tech sneaker.
And this year, the exciting point of my shoes, they were a really cool pair to the Final Four, and my shoe made the cover of Sports Illustrated. Enrique, of course, was on the cover, but my shoe was down there in the corner, and I thought that was really special.
Muffet McGraw giving a little love to her shoe. I mean, it's impressive. We were talking about it before. She rocks those heels all game long.
Well, look, Muffet McGraw assumes the squatting position most of the game. You see her on the sidelines. It's actually easier to maintain that position the higher your heel because it takes some pressure off, which she confirmed that.
Yes.
So it's important she has a lot of high heels. But yeah, sure, Enrique might have made the front cover, but really, Coach McGraw's shoes is the storyline there.
Irish foul, picked up by number 5.
I told her, well, I totally did believe that fact about the higher heel helping you get up from a squat. I was still in no way going to test that out myself in fear of just falling over. And
it's not
silly.
easy to do.
No. But I know you've been keeping an eye on her over there, Muffet McGraw, and you said you'd think they were the ones down 40. I mean, she just, and that's true of so many coaches, you know, they're not going to take a moment off. Never stops.
You heard Marina talk about it at halftime in that piece that we showed of how Coach McGraw gets things out of you that you didn't realize you could tap into. She gets things out of you didn't even realize you could have. And if your coach isn't constantly looking for ways to improve not only your game but the team as a whole, how are you going to get any better? And this is a national championship defending team, and she's constantly looking for those ways to get her players to step up and to improve. And so sure, in the moment it can be frustrating and it can be hard, but these players respond well to that, and it's what has made her a Hall of Fame coach and a national championship coach 2 times, looking to get her 3rd, is that high standard.
This Notre Dame team has been on the road for the last 3 and for the last 5. They sure look like they're happy to be back home, but to be fair, they also looked pretty happy and comfortable on the road at Clemson Thursday night. Triple digits in that victory. Crowd liking Abby Prohaska, the freshman from Liberty Township, Ohio, getting the bucket.
Also probably a little more comfortable at Clemson, given they were not in the negative 20 degrees that Notre Dame was experiencing.
I was certainly happy that we came here this time and not a few days ago. All those weather reports, it was terrifying. The bucket is good for Cosgrove. Everybody up, including the starters, to celebrate the 6'4" freshman getting her bucket. Kubai still trying to go to work on the offensive end. She's fouled. I believe they scored that a 2, excuse me, for Cosgrove. It's close though. No, that was a 3. It looked like it from the replay. Kubai on the free throw line. Not a very good percentage on the season. About 47% from the free throw line. We talked a little bit. We mentioned Notre Dame's been on the road. They see what they've got coming up as they do break the pressure here. Let's see what their bench can do. This is Maureen Butler, a senior off the bench who hasn't played the last 3 games, so it'll get a chance to get some minutes here. But coming up, Notre Dame goes to Miami, then Florida State comes here. And not too long after that, they're at BC and then at NC State. I think that's one to certainly circle on the calendar. February 18th. At the moment, NC State, ranked number 7 in the country, the nation's only unbeaten team, men or women.
So the question is NC State still undefeated coming into that matchup? We talked about it. They play North Carolina today, but then they are at Florida State, who's ranked 24th, and then they go they're at Syracuse, who's ranked 18th. Back-to-back top 25 matchups after today, if they can get by the Tar Heels. Of course, that would make for a great storyline. NC State here undefeated. I think that's a team we're going to learn a lot about. We've seen just how good that they've been and the job that Westmore has done with the injuries that they've had this season. To have them undefeated is so impressive. But they sort of had that backloaded schedule in terms of facing top 25 opponents, and it is a brutal stretch coming up for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, where those ranked teams in conference fall on everybody's schedule can certainly have a big impact on how things start and finish in conference play. Georgia Tech, one of those teams with a heavy front-loaded schedule. They had a lot of the ranked teams that they've already seen. So once they get past this one, not that you can ever put it on cruise control in the ACC, but they know they've gone through the gauntlet. And really a lot to play for this Georgia Tech team. Their RPI 38 would have them in contention, at least in the conversation, if they can pick up some more wins for the NCAA tournament, a place that they have not been since 2014. And Francois Diouf on the line. Completes a three-point play. Under 2 minutes to play. Butler is hit on the baseline there. It'll stay with Notre Dame under the basket. Butler, one of 3 walk-ons on Notre Dame's national championship team last season. Prohaska. Diouf with the rebound. Lotman's been playing hard the entire game for Georgia Tech. Has hit a couple of threes too. That one around and out. Chelsea, how do you think Michelle Joseph and her staff help her team just move past this game? Because it certainly has not been the performance they were hoping for coming in here.
Sure, and it's a tough place to play. I mean, they played them a little bit closer in the first matchup earlier this season when it was at Georgia Tech, and you would have hoped if you're Coach Joseph that team would have been able to build on that and carry the momentum over from the North Carolina game. I know it was a loss, but Coach Joseph said she felt like, not that you have moral victories, but she was proud and told her team how proud she was of their fight. They came back from a 14-point deficit in that game, and so you saw a lot from there that certainly Coach Joseph would have expected her team to carry over here. At the same time, she recognizes how young of a team this is, and I think you have to encourage your players to have a short memory. You know, you talk about, like you said, you don't put it on cruise control, but they're still playing with those rankings and where they are in the ACC and trying to win games, and there's still a lot of the line and a lot that can be played for, and that's where you have to keep your focus. The ACC tournament is you play for seeding in that as well, trying to get a bye or a double bye, and her team trying to finish in the top half to get that bye. So there's a lot to be played for still, and if you can keep the focus on that and continue to try to get the most out of your players, I think that's how you have to approach it.
And the Jackets have the bottom, some teams toward the bottom of the conference coming up. They've got Pittsburgh, then at Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, their next 3. And, you know, they just had that sizable deficit in the first half, and since then they've pretty much been able to play with Notre Dame in this second half. The Irish, of course, have used their bench quite a bit as well. 6 seconds on the shot clock. Cosgrove had it batted away. Montgomery hit the deck, and Pond kept on heading to the basket where she was fouled. Prohaska picking up her 3rd personal. Allison Pond to the free throw line. I mean, this is an element of Georgia Tech's game where when Pond hasn't been into the rhythm, she's not been getting these opportunities, and she's their best free throw shooter, 83% for the season. Doesn't get that one. Former ACC Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago. Cole Benz into the corner, and Cosgrove couldn't hang on to it. Coach McGraw finally thought it was okay to sit down for the final few seconds of this one. Condalia Montgomery, number 12, making her first appearance in conference play for the Yellow Jackets. Prohaska did well to put this one off of Georgia Tech. Give her team perhaps the final possession, but Nixon in some trouble. Man, Nixon carried it, so that will give it back to Georgia Tech.
20 turnovers now for Notre Dame. They know they have some of their bench players in, but some turnovers Coach McGraw won't be happy with.
This one ends without the Irish reaching triple digits for a second consecutive game, but they still hit 90. Margin of victory is 40 over Georgia Tech. It was a dominating performance by the defending national champs. We'll be back with more right after this.